you ready? Thumbs up.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we're going to come back to what other people are going to plan to change in 21, and appreciate all those that are attending and listening and showing and all those good things. So, Mr. Goodyear, take it away. We appreciate you so much. We are recording, and keep it clean and keep it safe. And the gloves above the waist, please.
Keep it clean. We're good. Hey, everybody. We got a few people here in person. We got a bunch of people online. So thanks for coming. I'm going to take a tool out of Teddy's book and try to start us off with just a little bit of breathing to kind of get us in a good spot. This is something that I actually learned how to do from Teddy or D. Davis. I'm not sure, but it's kind of a cool way to just get us focused. So if you just close your eyes with me. The goal is really just to kind of slow things down. We're going to count to 4, take a deep breath in, and then hold it for 4, and then exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold it for 4. We'll do that a couple times. So take one in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. And hold for 4. And inhale. Hold for 4. Exhale. And hold for 4. Keep your eyes closed for a minute, and as you're continuing that on your own, think in your head about something that you're grateful for. Maybe it's something that happened to you this year. Maybe that it's the year is about to end. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's a trip. Just let that come in for a minute. Try to picture what it was like, what you felt, what it smelled like, what it looked like. And now think through the year ahead. What trouble you had this year. Just try to picture what your life would be like if you had just a little bit more time, a little bit more money. Maybe it's an extra 25,000. Maybe it's an extra 50,000. What would you do with that? Who would you spend it on? Who would you do that with? Where would you go? And that's what we want to try to figure out today is how can we plan effectively, even though, as Hunter said, you can't plan for everything, but how can we get a framework together to start on the right foot in the beginning of the year so we can hit the ground ready to go? All right, I love doing that. I try to do that every morning, but it's amazing how hard it is. And then I get in the car and then I try not to close my eyes in the car. But you're one of those Amazon cars. You do it on the way in. So what we're going to talk about today is business planning, right? So from a planning standpoint, we've got 12 months ahead of us. I think, how fast did this year go by, or how slow? Was it? It was pretty fast. Remember March like yesterday? I do too, but then it felt like it was so long ago. I mean, to me, this has been a wild year, and I feel like I've been kind of chasing my tail a little bit at times, and we've been just running around like a chicken with my head cut off at other times. It's the same thing. But there has been, a lot of time too where we've had this opportunity just to kind of feel like, gosh, my normal routine is messed up. So I'm going to take a minute and just kind of focus, get into the zone and really think about what's most important right now. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's my activities, whatever that may be. And so one of the things that is so valuable to Hunter's point, and really so detrimental to all of our lives is this self-talk that we have, right? So this self-talk is that little voice in your head that says usually negative things, because that's the easiest for it to say. And then a lot of times it'll say, gosh, you couldn't make 50 grand, or you couldn't make 100 grand, or you couldn't do whatever. And then, and that happens 24/7. And usually we try to tune it out, but it's always back there. And so part of what we want to try to do is I do want to challenge you all to do this affirmation process. So I want to spend a minute or two talking about this process. Who's done affirmations before? Written affirmations? Do y'all? Raise your hand if you've done them. What have you, if you care to share, what has been some of the things that you've done? Just unmute and chime in. Y'all can unmute too.
Okay.
Jennifer, go ahead, Jane.
I've not been as consistent because like I did it for a few months and then I fell off the wagon, but I put targets like if they're personal goals. I've tried to do like one business goal and one personal goal, not to overwhelm, and do those daily. And I've put for business goals have been like an annual volume or production, a number of homes sold is what I did last year. And then personal goals, you know, it's like been physical fitness, but I mean, it could be anything, you know, it could be something fun. I didn't think of getting physically fit would be fun, but it's a goal.
That was part of your personal goal, was just health related?
What was it you asked?
You said health related, that was part of your personal goal?
Yeah, that was part of my personal goal. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I got to get back on that wagon.
How long? So I'm gonna pick on you for a second because you started out beating yourself up and you said, "Well, I haven't been as good as I should have been. I didn't do it for as long as I should have done."
Yeah.
And I'm not really picking on you because I guarantee you, any person who started out would have said the exact same thing. And so when you feel yourself and hear yourself saying that, just try to remember to stop it because that is truly detrimental to all of us in achieving that. And so part of this process is basically taking your brain and putting that, the thing inside your head that I was talking about. Taking your brain and put it in the present tense, but in the future, right? So there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system that ultimately what you focus on expands, right? So if you've gotten anytime the last time you bought a car, you thought it was pretty unique, the color, the make, the model, whatever, and then 3-4 weeks later, you go to the grocery store parking lot and you start walking up to somebody else's car that looks just like it. You start seeing them everywhere. Because that's your brain, it's focused on it because you see that car every day because you're going to get in it. And so just subconsciously, it starts to pick those out. And so we can use that little gizmo in our brain, the reticular activating system, and basically psych out ourselves to believe that the impossible or the seemingly impossible is possible. I mean, the affirmation process is the way to do that. And so the way to do it is basically to go through, get a blank notebook, and write the same statement 25 times for 30 days in a row. And it is way harder than it seems, only because it doesn't feel like you're getting any progress. But what you want to do is you want to put that in the present tense, and you can say, I enjoy receiving, or it feels good having sold X number of homes, or I love the way I look in the mirror, ... right? Or, I love, seeing my muscles. That's what Zach Opine does every morning. So, maybe. But the idea is ultimately to train your brain to quiet that inner voice and really to shut it down and replace it with something else. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be there and it's really hard and you can't just will it away. So there's no like systematic exact process for this other than putting it in the present tense. So you don't want to put it in the future and say, I hope to earn $25,000 more. That doesn't work, right? So put yourself today, 1 year from now, and say, if I'm looking back, it's been incredible to hit my goal of X, or I enjoy receiving X dollars. Does that make sense? Who can commit to doing that for the next 30 days? Couple hesitancy hands.
Can I start in January or do I have to do it now?
Put it on your calendar, dude. So
It's
there is a
on
funny
there.
story. So
It's on there, but
I will say a funny story. I've told somebody all this before, but Scott Evans, great agent here. He was doing this several years ago, and he was learning how to do it, and he picked this crazy number. I don't remember what it was, but it was a big number. And he said, he was writing it down in his notebook. I enjoy receiving, whatever the crazy number is by the end of 2021, or I enjoy receiving ... right? Over and over and over again. Reminds you of the movie, it's The Shining, right? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So he leaves his notebook on his coffee table. He goes to the office and he comes home and he realized that he had a house cleaner come. And he comes and he sees his house is all clean and this nice little notebook with 25 times written, I enjoy receiving some crazy number over and over again. And he was like, I was mortified. I didn't know if I don't even know if I could see this person again. She probably thought I was just completely bad, crazy. So anyway, the moral of the story is do it, but maybe close the notebook before you leave. Because if somebody doesn't know what you're doing, they might think you're crazy. But I want to run through this, a couple things. Let me share the screen here. So this is straight out of an interview. There's a guy named Goddard, John Goddard, and it's Goddard's List. Anybody heard of Goddard, John Goddard? He kind of coined this idea of a life list or a kind of a life goals list or a bucket list, right? There's a movie made out of it called The Bucket List. And so what he did is he started at the age of 15, he listed 127 goals he wished to experience or achieve in his lifetime. 30 years later, at age 45, an article in Look magazine chronicled his life and accomplishments. Notice at that point in time, over 100 of the 127 goals were checked off. Ultimately, Dr. Goddard had a list of over 600 goals and achieved over 520 of them. He passed away on May 17, 2013 at the age of 88. So this talks about programming yourself for success. So Dr. Goddard believed that writing down your goals is the key to programming your brain and your life. He recommended that everyone create a, quote, life list. He said, when you establish specific, compelling goals, you engage in a mysterious force that magnetically attracts, right? That's the reticular activating system, that magnetically attracts the people and the experiences necessary to accomplish your objectives. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true. If you neglect making conscious choices about what you want your life to become, you'll experience an ambiguous existence, enduring whatever happens to you or becoming a part of someone else's plan for your life. So think about that for a second. James Allen wrote a book and about him and said, we become what we think about. There's a book, and I'm totally drawing a blank on the name of it, but it was written in the 30s. Napoleon Hill. It's called Thinking. Napoleon
Hill.
Hill, thank you. Think and Grow Rich. Same concept, right? It's about the two keys are about believing in something that you didn't think was previously possible and truly believing in it. And again, this process psychs yourself out for it. And then ultimately persistence, right? So just doing the little activities every day to get you there. But the way that this works is the same principle. And so I would encourage you to think about, even take a minute today and say, how many white trucks do you see on the way home? When you're driving around, look out for white trucks. And I guarantee you're gonna see like every fourth car is a white truck, right? They're everywhere. And you didn't notice them before, but when you start thinking about them, you notice them. So this concept of a life list is, you can't just write it down once and put it in the drawer. You gotta look at it. But if you're thinking about it, and let's say you want to, what's something that's a little more reasonable? You wanted to photograph if somebody falls, right? You're going to be in a conversation with somebody and they're going to say, oh, I'm taking a trip out west this summer. Oh, where are you going? I'm going to Yosemite. Bingo. That's on your life list. You're going to start talking to them about that, and you're going to have a really good, genuine conversation about them, about what they're doing. You're going to be actively engaged. Could lead to a client. Might just help you reach your goal because you're going to learn more about that. It reinvigorates yourself. And then you see somebody else doing it, and you're like, oh, I can do that. Totally feasible, right? Whereas before, at that, COVID distance party or whatever, or not later in the summer, you may not do that. You just hear about it and then kind of brush them off. So, in addition to the affirmations, you can create a life list. It doesn't have to be as epic as this, right? In fact, I would say, on my life list is I want to be able to read to my kids every single night, right? It's one of my goals. I want to read at least for a minute or two every single night. And some nights it's late, I don't want to do it. But I'm like, you know what? This is important. This is part of my goal. It's going to make me feel better. It's going to make them hopefully feel better. And so I try to do it. Doesn't mean I get it every time because I'm thinking about it. It's always on the top of my mind. And I know when I go in and take my kids to their room, I see some books on the shelf and I notice those, and then that triggers that. So it's all part of the subconscious. So this life list idea, you can see, his list, climb Mount Everest. He didn't get to do that, but he did climb a lot of other things. He also got divorced a few times, I think. So, I don't think I saw, staying in a healthy marriage on here. So, there's choices and consequences to everything you do, right? So if you want to go do a zillion things that have nothing to do with your business, then you might go broke. That's just part of life. So balance that out with what's important. But what's that? There's some good ones on here. There's some wild ones. You want to just clip the tip of it, the strike anywheres. So Ninja talks about breaking it down into 4 categories: to have, to be, to do, and to give. You can do it this way if you want. This is obviously different than what Goddard did, but the idea is to have. If it's something you want to have, maybe you want to have, a place in the country. If you live in the city, maybe you want to have a college fund for your kids. Maybe you want to have X amount of dollars in that college fund, whatever it may be. Maybe you want to have X dollars in retirement. This was a fascinating thing that I did. I had, when I was first starting out, I interviewed all these financial planners because I basically got dropped by one because I think I had like $13,000 in my retirement account in my 20s. And I was like, well, somebody's an idiot because they're not seeing the fact that I'm young and I'm interested in trying to learn to save. I just don't really know the process of doing it. And I want to have a guide. So about 7 years ago, I put some numbers on my life list that quite frankly I thought were not possible. But I looked at it, and every time I got a chunk of cash, I would think about that and think, I'm going to put a little bit more away than I normally would. I'm going to put a little bit more away than I normally would. And I kept doing that. Next thing you know, that became the habit. And I looked back, I was like, oh my God, I hit that first goal right on time. I hit my next 5-year goal 2 years early. And that doesn't make me special. It was just those little bitty things over time. So because I focused on it, anytime I came into, had a big closing, whatever, it's like, I'm gonna work toward this goal, right? So to be, maybe you want to be something. Maybe you want to be a little more grateful. Maybe you want to be a little bit more resilient. Maybe you want to be a Mount Everest climber. So that would be under to do, right? So if you want to do something, travel somewhere, and then to give. What do you want to give? Maybe that's a financial donation to something. Maybe you want to give time to learning or to teaching adults to read. And the adult literacy rate in Tennessee is not. If you Google it, it's shocking. That's one of my goals. I have never figured out how to do that yet, but I'd love to be able to help teach an adult to read because I just can't even imagine going through the world without that. So haven't achieved that yet, but that's on my life list. So think about that, especially over the holidays. If you have a little extra free time, go through and work on this. I'm going to send this out to everybody afterwards as well. All right. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of what I sent out the other day. And I want to make this a little bit of a collaborative discussion. So if you've done this, whether you fill this out or not, let's talk about, because the more we share, the more ideas other people have gotten. And I filled this out as an example, but what is the most successful thing, or one of the most successful things you've done this year? Open houses. What else? Y'all chime in.
It was calling people,
Say that again.
calling,
Picking up the phone,
picking up the phone.
right?
Mhm.
Calling people. Who else?
Getting up early every day.
Getting up. What says getting up early every day? Man, that's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Love it. Nobody else is awake. There's no emails coming in at you, no phone calls. You can be in control of that time rather than reacting. What time do you wake up at 6? All right. Because you used to sleep till 10, right? Just picking on you. Musician days. Some musician days. My hours are 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. That was my sleep. But yeah, so you change your habits, change your routine. What else? Just showing up, right? You've been through Ninja. That's first rule of Ninja: show up, right? Show up, but physically and just kind of emotionally and theoretically, show up to wherever you are, fully present. What about struggles? What were some of the struggles that you had this year? I wrote not being able to see people face to face here. Obviously, that was COVID related. And I'm reading this now, and I think maybe that was a little bit of a cop out because maybe it was, I just wrote this as an example, but maybe that was something that was an easy pick. I think having some
this year, like fear to reach out to somebody because you may be doing better than what situation they may be in.
fear of reaching out to somebody else because
Of the year.
right? Maybe they lost their job. That's an awkward conversation. Hey, how you doing? I lost my job. That stinks, right? You gotta be brave to have those conversations. The fear of calling people or having those conversations because you're not sure what you're gonna get. What else?
Patience.
Just patience, being patient, right? Not getting hung up on things, newer in the business, trying to figure out, hey, I want to get this thing going now, right? Trust in the process. Yeah. Wanted to jump ahead of the process. Anybody else on the Zoom? Scott Saunders? Who said that? Sorry, go ahead.
That was me. I was Jan. I was just thinking that probably the biggest thing I'm struggling with right now is juggling all the buyers. Usually I have probably about a 50-50 mix, and the buyers in Nashville are coming out of the woodwork and just trying to, you have to spend more time with them on a regular basis in managing, showing homes, staying on top of their stuff with them. That's a big challenge.
I mean, you could summarize that almost with anybody, right? Staying on top of your routine.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, our routines got thrown out of the freaking window. And that is super stressful. It can be exciting for some, but to me, that's really stressful. So how are you adaptable? I think we're a really adaptable bunch. And if you look at the data, the showing data, we talked about that a lot early in the pandemic, right? It was like showings, the spring market, January, February, showings going up. And then March 11th hits and it's like, zoom, just takes a nosedive. It was about 4 to 6 weeks of just nobody knew what to do. Nobody was showing houses. You didn't know if you touched the door handle, if your hand would melt off. I mean, it was like nobody knew what to do. So, but pretty quickly we started saying, all right, we got to get back in the business. One, we're all going to go crazy if we don't get into some sort of routine again. And secondly, we have people out there that want to buy houses and want to sell houses. So let's be adaptable, creative, figure out how to do it. And so I think as an industry, I think we did a really good job, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a struggle. What part of the business you enjoy the most?
I like the early stage when you get a referral, and if you go like meet them for drinks or coffee, or you're kind of getting to know them, connecting, exciting and you know that that's gonna turn into something.
The early stage of relationship building, right?
Yeah, the honeymoon phase.
The honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. You know, they want a
But
you know,
life,
a $400,000 house in a $600,000 neighborhood.
Yeah.
But you don't have to break that bad news to them just yet. You're just getting to know them.
Might not even know that yet.
You might not even know that yet. They don't know it yet, right? So it's, you know, it is fun, and that's a beautiful thing that we can do, right? I mean, if you ask the average person that sits at a desk all day and says, "Hey, how would you like it if you had a job where you could have really cool, engaging conversations with really interesting people every single week?" They'd be like, "Really? Sign me up." That's what we do. That's what we get to do. So. What else? What else did y'all enjoy the most?
Solving really difficult.
Dee, I think you're trying to talk, but I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Dee. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Jan, can you talk for a second?
Yeah, I'm talking.
All right,
I-
hold
I
on one
can hear-
second.
We can hear Dee.
Mic just come off. Or,
Fine.
one moment.
Okay.
All right, somebody try saying something now.
All right, testing. Go ahead, Zach.
There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know how long that's been going on. So if y'all been trying to talk, and
Okay.
we
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. I really like solving big, scary problems.
You like solving big, scary problems.
Yes, I think that's really fun.
Put
And my
Dee in the room
clients
with
like it
the
too. I don't like not solving them, but when we get them taken care of, it's the best.
Good.
Honest. Why are you laughing at me?
Did anybody else have anything to say that I missed before? Over the last 2 minutes, our speaker stopped working. You did?
Teddy started to talk about insurance.
Teddy, do you have something to say? No. All right. All right. What part of the business do you enjoy the least? Doesn't mean what you're not good at, but what do you enjoy the least?
inspection day resolution,
Inspection and resolution.
last day.
The last day when it's due. On a buyer side or a listing side?
Either one.
Either one. What are you afraid of? Sounds like a lot of fear.
The deal falling apart. I feel like most of the time, so that last day.
Start thinking about from that initial the search process, the contract, the negotiating, and you got to this point and it could all fall apart. All that work, all that time. It's terrifying. Yeah.
Inventory shortage.
Inventory shortage, not enough choices. What else?
Self-promotion.
Self-promotion. Lon's gonna put a big billboard of himself on the side of I-40.
Yeah.
Actually, if you did that, Lon, I guarantee you it wouldn't work.
Good.
There's a lot of self-promotion that doesn't work, right? It's like that cliche realtor stuff, right? Putting your name on the side of a bus, you're doing that, you know, that stuff is almost 100% ego-driven. But what you focus on expands. Every time you drive that billboard, you're like, I see that guy. Everybody's seeing that. No, they're not. They just keep driving, right?
I aspire to the shopping cart at Kroger's.
What?
But we feel like that's what we're supposed to do because we see other people do it. So we think, oh, if we're not doing it, you know, what am I doing? But I think there's more value-added ways that we can be visible. Anybody else? What you enjoy the least? So think for a second, whatever it is that you enjoy the least, think for a second, and I'm going to touch on some of those that we talked about, but think for a second, which ones of those do you feel like are solvable in your control? Can you solve the inspection fear? Maybe you can't solve the fear, right? You experience that feeling.
Just know that it's gonna work out not supposed to.
Or it's not gonna work out.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't fall apart and all work out.
Yeah. Have you ever had somebody like just hate you because a deal fell through? And never call you again? Probably not, right? It might be a little bit more work, but some of the best real estate agents are the ones people I always tell, if I meet, you know, a lot of times if I'm in the lobby or something, and somebody will bring a client in, they'll say, so-and-so is so good. You know, they actually told me that a house that I liked, I probably shouldn't buy. I've heard this so many times. Like, to me, that's just obvious. Like, I don't want to let somebody buy a house that, you know, isn't right for them, right? They're hiring us as a consultant, not somebody to just fill out paperwork and drive them around. Right? So we help ask the tough questions. We help pull opinions out of them. We help give them opinions. We're not just these like, you know, robotic salespeople that just, if you want to see a house, we sell, sell, sell. But that's where you know, sometimes those challenging times create even really stronger relationships.
Some of your greatest meetings are the clients that you have weathered the biggest storms.
Yeah, we'd say some of your greatest champions are the ones who weather the biggest storms with. So that might turn into 2, 3, 5, 10 referrals down the road. Because you did it the right way, not the way that they thought it was supposed to be done. What else are y'all writing down in terms of, if, again, the question was, if you write down what you enjoy the least, if it's something that still has to be done, is that in your control to change that? So Lon, you mentioned self-promotion, right? So you could control the fact, you could put a billboard up. You could also promote yourself in a different way. Do it like what Whit said, right? Maybe it's just calling people to check in. Maybe it's building relationships. Maybe we can go out to lunch more easily. Maybe it's, everybody's got to eat, right? There's a book called Never Eat Alone. I haven't read it, but I get the concept. We all got to eat. Go spend that time with somebody. I was thinking the other day, and I think I mentioned this in the sales meeting, I spent time cleaning my house a few weeks ago, like all day. And the next day, it was a disaster. Like the kids had just like pulled stuff off the shelves. And it was really kind of heartbreaking to see. And then later that day, I checked in with an old friend, passed by, hadn't seen him in a while, single guy. And I said, hey, you want to go for a walk on the Greenway? I saw you post something the other day. You went for a walk on the Greenway. I want to go do that. We spent 45 minutes going for a walk. I spent hours cleaning my house, and it was right back to where it started. And I had I don't know if it was life-changing, but I had a really impactful talk in just 45 minutes, right? So, you know, things that you enjoy the least, you spend that time a little bit differently. You might have a better impact. So, where do y'all think you're really good? Where do you excel? Communicating. How so?
Just transparent and I'll do my best.
Over communicating, right?
When necessary.
When necessary. So somebody told me this the other day. They said, if you're thinking it, if you're feeling it, you better believe your clients are feeling it. And I love that. I would always say, if you feel like you need to call your client, call them. Because if they call you first, you lose. You don't really lose, but you missed an opportunity to be proactive, to be the professional, to be the one in charge, to be the leader. So if you're feeling it, they're feeling it. If you got nothing to say, maybe a house is sitting, you're not selling, and you take some of those tips and it's still not working, right? You communicate what you're doing. If you over communicate what you're doing, they can believe that you're doing that. So if that's where you excel, or maybe that's where you can improve, write down a few things of ways, tactical, tangible ways where you can actually do that this year. And maybe it's as simple as, if I'm feeling it, they're feeling it. Act on it. So coaching, we got a lot of coaching. I think this is something that is pretty obvious, but education sales meetings, y'all are here. I think y'all are in the right spot. People that might put no for that probably aren't here, and they're probably not going to do as well for you. Life list, we talked about that. And then some personal goals. Jan, you mentioned personal and business, right?
Yeah.
It's not all about just work. So thinking about what you want to have for personal goals this year. So this next one, I'm going to spend a little time on this because this is really, I talked about kind of that sort of savings path. And I see, this is my biggest fear of real estate agents is that we're going to be 70 years old and driving people around day after day after day, still hustling as much as we were before. And that might be really enjoyable, but if that's not what you wanted to do at that point in time, then how are you going to get into a place where you basically not have to do that at that point? And so this is probably the biggest sort of tangible way to see those little decisions impact over time. Talk about patience, not having patience, right? You can't just all of a sudden say, gosh, I'm gonna have $1 million. I'm gonna start saving 90% of every commission check I get, because then you'll probably go hungry. But if you can start now, start saving a little bit. We can do this at Village. You can do it on your own. Direct deposits or automatic deductions. If it comes out of your account before you ever see it, or it never goes in your account, is the very best way to save. I would challenge you to do 10%, 20%. Whatever you think you can do, bump it up a little bit. And always turn it down. If you bump that up a little bit, you can look back at the end of the year and be like, wow, man, I saved $28,000 because I was trying to save 20%. But if you try to do it manually, oh, I got to go to this broker open. I'll do that later. I'll transfer that later. I got to go to lunch. I'll transfer that later, right? It just doesn't happen. Actually, I was thinking about you when I talked about the videos piece. This has been a big goal for a lot of people is to do more videos. Maybe it's more live, Facebook Live or Instagram stories. And there's a lot of fear about videos. So I'm gonna conquer my fear and start with one. I think that theme is really, you can carry that over in anything. Start with one. Even if you don't post it, and I would still encourage you to post it. If something, if being on camera is terrifying to you, try it. Just try it once. You talked about that a little bit. I'm looking at Zach Obama.
I forget who said this, but it was like, nobody cares as much about your video on social media as you do.
Nobody cares as much about your video on social media as you do.
So like, if you have to make fun of yourself on your video, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I was trying to open a door while videoing, and I did not realize it was an elevator door. It wouldn't open. I couldn't figure out why. And there was a button right next to it, and I was like, I'm gonna keep that in there.
What do you know? This house has an elevator. Who knew? You thought it was a coat closet.
Make that by myself.
But you posted it. That's actually kind of funny, right? We see video all day long. We see marketing all day long. Usually it blows right past us, but don't overthink it. It's just a good reminder that, yeah, we think about that way more than maybe others will. All right, so this is getting into some kind of tactical stuff, but at the end of the day, it's hard to know where you're going unless you know where you are, right? So if I said, and I had this analogy in my head, it's a map analogy. Basically, get to the Appalachian Trail from here, right? You could kind of figure it out, be like, I think it's kind of northeast. The sun's setting over there. I'm just going to start walking this way. Probably eventually get there. You talk to enough people, bump into enough people, make the wrong turn enough times, or you can get a map and say, wow, this is the best route. So all we're doing here is trying to create a map, right? We're trying to ultimately identify the destination where we want to be. And then the map is all the steps that we need to take to get there. What has been y'all's, who had some success this year with doing anything, any sort of planning, any sort of mapping out? What did you do? Wait, raise his hand. What did you do?
Well, the 40X group at the beginning of the year,
40X.
that really kicked in after the fact. Like right when we finished, right when we finished all that work, just kicked in. A big chunk of my deals this year was from one of my goals, one of my commitments was to go to a networking event.
I'm just repeating this so that everything here. So one of your commitments was to go to a networking event,
Every week.
every week.
One networking event every week. I went to one and I met some kid 10 years younger than me, went to coffee, and he sent me 3 deals this year. 3 of my deals this year.
You went to your first networking event.
No, not first. I went to one.
But you went to a time, but one of them turned into 3 deals.
One networking event that I went to a year ago, this time last year, turned into 3 deals this year. From one kid that I met that was 10 years younger.
So go back to that moment for a second. So you met one person at a networking event, turned into 3 deals. This is always really enlightening and also terrifying to think about, right? Because what if you just get like, man, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to go. I don't want to go this week.
Yeah, I never went.
Never wanted to go, right? What was that conversation like? How did you run into them? Do you mind coming up here and just talking about it?
Well, let's see.
You can stand right here, Bud. Just so I'm not into repeating.
Hey everyone. This work.
Yeah, that's great.
It was just a guy at a counter that I was walking around with business cards, and just he had gone to a college that I played music at and knew of the band that I was playing with.
Yeah.
And I just kind of learned about, like, he just graduated college the previous year, and so we went out and got coffee and just established a lot of mutual connections. And then he fed me a first referral that I connected with, and that was like one of my first deals in the pandemic. And that went so well because it was a multiple offer scenario. And then he connected me with someone who I closed with this summer, and then he connected me with the guy I closed with this summer, connected me with another guy. It's just
That's amazing.
domino. Water.
So that networking event though, you didn't like everything didn't just happen there. That was the introduction. How did you end up getting coffee?
We exchanged numbers, and that's kind of the thing, the step by step. When you're at those events, is just meet as many people as possible and get in front of them and have
It's like speed dating.
it's speed date. Yeah, for sure. And if you can find someone that you connect with and have like some kind of history with, and you can, forge that into a friendship.
Hey, we should get lunch sometime.
I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's do that sometime.
Yeah.
Great. Done. That's how most interactions go, right?
Yeah.
You think about it, you talk about doing something, and then there's no follow-up.
Right.
What if next time you do that, say, hey, you want to get lunch sometime? You're like, that's great. Pull out your phone, look at your calendar, say, what does next week look like?
Yeah.
You go, well, I've got Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you do one little step, you will have way more interactions. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a walk in the greenway, right? That's social distance, whatever, right? Whatever it is, there's got to be that next step. And either you're in control of that or somebody else is in control of that. But most people have a little bit of fear of taking that next step, including the people that you're talking to, right?
Right.
And that to me is a really powerful reminder that the people that you're talking to have that fear just like you do. And so it's you're the leader, you're the professional. Give them an opportunity to experience a little bit of the wit.
My newsletter this month is "Don't Make Empty Promises."
That's an empty promise. Man, I'd love to go to lunch with you sometime.
Yeah, we should
Let's
get
connect.
together. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It's great seeing you.
Yeah.
Done. Never's gonna happen. Probably is never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right. But even if that does happen, realize that happened. Pick up the phone and follow up.
Yeah.
So those are the little micro moments. I call those micro moments because there's so many things that what's scary to me is how many of those are we missing? Even right now, you're sitting in the Zoom call, right? How many are you missing? Right? You're missing them all the time. So they're always around. So you're not putting yourself in the path of those possible moments, then they're not just going to magically appear. So in terms of commitments, I think to your point is, I'm going to make some weekly commitments. I'm going to make some annual commitments. If you want to go, you can. I didn't mean to keep you up here. Thanks, Whit.
Thank you.
Didn't tell him I was going to throw him in front of the camera, but right. So some of your year-to-date successes: weekly calls and notes, birthdays, anniversaries, home anniversaries, general check-ins, real estate reviews for home anniversaries. Right. So maybe that was your year-to-date success, is being consistent about going through and doing your networking events. So everybody just chime in real quick. What is something that you did consistently this year, even if it wasn't perfect, right? You did it more consistently than you would have if you hadn't kind of focused on that just a little bit more. That brought you success.
Phone calls.
Phone calls. What else? Following through, putting something in your schedule. You know, taking it from that sort of theoretical conversation, hey, we should do this, to, hey, we talked about that last week. You know, I was looking at my schedule next week. Wanted to check and see if that walk would be good, if lunch would be good, or if I could drop that thing off at your house. Actually putting it on, right? What else? What else has worked? I know y'all are full of info.
Mailing,
Whatever you be valuable to somebody else. What's that?
mailings. Monthly
Mailings.
mailings to my clients, mailings to leads. Yeah. I'm
You
working
do
at
physical
both
mail?
offices.
Physical, email, both?
Physical and, yeah, more physical than email.
Okay.
I'm like,
So more physical
I'm a
email.
friend with the gal at the post office now.
Ah,
I'm gonna
that's
sell her
awesome.
a house.
Sell her a house, or she can know that you're the guy, right?
Yep.
Way better than a billboard, because you're building a relationship. Jan, what do you do on your phone calls?
You mean actually just calling? I'm like mostly past clients and friends, and just say, hey, just checking in. I hadn't talked to you in a while. Wanted to see how things are going. How are the kids? How's the house? Just
You say,
relationship.
hey, how's it going? I'm talking about, hey, I was going to see, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell a house, or you want to buy or sell a house?
No.
You don't do that, do you? Right?
No.
Somebody told me once, an agent told me, she said, well, I do a lot of phone calls, but I'm not having success with it. And I said, well, Tom, walk me through your conversation. She said, well, I feel really salesy if I ask them if they want to buy or sell a house. So I just asked them if they know anybody who wants to buy or sell a house. I was like, I hate to say it, that's worse. Like, that's so uncomfortable. Nobody wants that, right? One of those financial planners I went to, he actually, we met, and then he had printed out my LinkedIn profile. This was like 15, 20 years ago. He slid it across the table and said, my business is built on referrals. I'd love for you to circle all the people on your list that you know that you think might benefit from my services. I was like, how many?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt trapped. And I circled 3 names, and I left the building, and I called them right away. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, I got stuck. I couldn't even get a call from this guy. I'm not working with it. Anyway, don't do that, right? It's awkward. But you're building a relationship, that stuff happens as long as you take the few next steps. What else? What did you do consistently this year that you felt like was good? Hampton, you may not have seen direct success from it, but I love the story. You've got what? Just your phone calls, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're calling people from your past.
It all started with a timeline. Second, I forced me to be consistent with literally everything else. And then that really starting calling people that I hadn't talked to in 6 months to a year at least. And that immediately turned into multiple hour conversations with just about everything.
So he said time blocking. How much time do you block off every day or week for calling people that were?
I think when I started, I set aside
An
an hour a day.
hour a day.
Thinking, in that hour, I could reach out to 4 or 5 people and then turn into one person per hour.
So you end up having phone calls for almost 45 minutes or longer, right? And you would do it in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, what?
Afternoon, or late afternoon, early evening.
Late afternoon, early evening.
After work, or late.
So you actually wanted to talk to people, so you're trying to catch them not in the middle of their workday when they're stressed, and you're kind of in imposition, but maybe when they're on their way home or whatever, right?
Right.
You had some really good conversations. You lit up and you were talking about some of these conversations you had. You're like, man, it was so good. I reconnected with this one person. I talked to her for 45 minutes and I hadn't talked to her before, for years. And you didn't call them and say, hey, I'm in the real estate business. You want to buy or sell a house? No, it was about building relationships.
I think the only time real estate ever came along, they were asking me, what have you been up to lately? Oh, by the way, I just learned something
Bingo.
weird.
And they're always going to ask, right? Everybody asks that question, right? So we're always going to ask that question.
Yeah.
So time blocking, I think one little side note about time blocking, we always talk about time blocking and it is not impossible to do. It's not super simple because you actually have to commit to doing it and actually block out the time. That's the name. But as you time block, don't forget to block out time for recharging, right? So I think it's really important to block out time for your work, but also block out time for your play. You did that the other night. You said, I'm going to go have a beer. Next thing you know, you got a listing appointment for a guy who lives down the street from you with 3 properties, right? That you met because you blocked out some time. So even that can turn into relationship building. So is there anything you feel like you did that didn't work this year? Good, y'all are perfect. So and we're wrapping up here in a minute, but look at your year this year. Look at the number of transactions you did. You can get this on Real Traction. You can get it on VMint. Look at your total volume, your total gross commission. What database do you use? Do you have a database? How many households are in it? Not necessarily people, but how many households are in it? And how do you want to grow that, right? There's 3 ways that you can make more money in this business. And I know money isn't everything, but there's 3 ways that you can make more money. If that's your goal, is to increase or be consistent. What are those 3 ways? One's right here. From here to here, what is that? Sell more.
Some more.
Higher volume,
Yeah.
sell more
houses,
units,
right?
and higher sales price units.
Yes.
So yeah, so you can sell more houses, you can sell more expensive houses, or you can charge more. Or as a sub bullet point to that, stop charging less, right? Don't discount yourself because you think that somebody won't hire you if you charge them what your rate is. You can sell more houses, sell more expensive houses, or charge more, stop charging less. One of the ways to do that is to increase your database. That's the simplest way to do that. And that goes back to all the simple things that we talked about. Networking events, carving out time for some recharging so that you can be on your A game, making calls consistently. All this stuff is innate. You know what you need to do, but if you don't write it down, then you're just going to know that you need to do it. And when you don't do it, you're going to beat yourself up and it becomes a self-fulfilling spiral. So you write it down and you can look at it every single week, then you can actually do it. And then in this scoreboard, you've seen this scoreboard, I've talked about it a ton of times, but this scoreboard is a phenomenal way to keep yourself accountable. And I would highly encourage you, if you do 40X, a lot of the 40X stuff, this is kind of built into it. If you're not doing 40X, find somebody that you can share this with, and they can share it with you, and you're always going to be more productive. It's why trainers have a business. It's why gyms have a business. I can do push-ups on my own in my house, but there's always something easier than that, right? So if somebody that's holding you accountable, you're going to do it more. And then lastly, having some sort of a financial plan in terms of what you're doing. There's a blank version of this that I sent out yesterday. You can fill it out. I sent out an Excel version. Kind of like what Hunter was talking about. You can plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and dwell over this planning. You're never going to get it exactly right. You're never going to hit your budget on the dime. A budget is there as a guide to make sure that you're not going to inadvertently spend $30,000 without thinking about it when you're only making $50,000, right? It just gives you a guide and gives you a plan. And the more that you can automate, the better. But there's certain things, the very best things are not automatable, make up a word. It's about the relationship. So what questions do you all have about this, about filling it out, about getting to where you want to be? The speaker must be broken again. Find out what works for you. Andrew, champion, I see you. You are a star at open houses. Like, it was really cool to talk to you. You started in the business this year, and you're like, yeah, do an open house. Do an open house. You were always proactive. And I don't know if this was an actual goal or if you were just good at this. You'd come to me early in the week and you'd say, hey, do you have any listings I can do an open house with? Right? You wouldn't just wait for it to fall in your lap. You wouldn't wait for somebody to send out an email at 2 p.m. on a Saturday saying, anybody able to do an open house this Sunday? Right? You took charge, you made the decision, and you found listings that you wanted to go do. A lot of times they were the more expensive, the nicer listings, and you did them. And you were super consistent about it. And you said, you know what? This is 2 or 3 hours on my Sunday, and it's highly impactful. And you picked up, I don't know how many clients you got from open houses, but I know you got at least a few.
I think it's 60 or 70% of my business from this year.
Okay. All right. So I guess it doesn't work, right?
Well, what I love about what she did there too, Zach, is she created the need. So like, she didn't wait till Thursday or Friday when everybody that was already planning open houses, by coming on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday and saying, do you have any? It's planting a seed for you. Like, oh, maybe I should put one. Maybe we could do one. Like, it's right here. And I guess I'd like to translate that for my own business and for others as don't be shy to make that call, like, to people, and share things with them, and can share it on social media. Don't assume that they don't want to buy an investment property, or that they aren't considering a second home, or they don't have family members that are buying and selling across the country that you could be a source of a referral agent for. Like, you got to plant those seeds.
100%. And that may work for you, Andrea. It may not work for somebody else. Maybe Sundays, maybe open houses feel completely unproductive to you. Either you need to learn how to do them better, or that's just not the highest and best use of your time. You're better in another way. I think where I see most real estate agents fail is they try to be a master of all things, or no, a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? They try to focus a little bit on a lot. They try to do a little bit of everything, because I see so-and-so is doing incredible social media. I got to be better at that. I see this person's doing open houses. I got to do that. And you end up spreading yourself so thin that you kind of suck at most of it. And we've all been there. If you haven't been there, you might be there. The whole principle of 40X and really just success in general is to focus on less to achieve more. If you can do that less, focus more intently on less things and do it consistently over time, it will yield results. If you do those activities, the results are going to take care of themselves. So hopefully you can fill out that form. As much as this is helpful, it only works if you fill it out and you don't put it in a drawer and you commit to looking at it every single week. Put it in your calendar. Maybe it's Monday morning, maybe it's Tuesday morning or Friday afternoon, who knows, whatever it is, put it on your calendar, review annual goals and do it. Put those goals in a recurring calendar invite so you see them. What you focus on, what you focus on
Big picture.
Grows.
expands, right? Yeah, you focus on growth. So if you can do that, then I guarantee you can have a little bit more success than you did this year. So there's no secret, just got to keep doing it. But thank you all for chiming in.
Give a hand to
And I
Zach,
hope,
everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good work. Thanks for all's participation. So I don't know if I sent that out just yesterday, but I'll send that out to everybody as well. And
You
then
did. You included the list.
perfect.
Everything.
Yeah.
Good. So if you need help finding somebody to create an accountability partner with, talk to a broker, talk to me, talk to another agent. Hiding in the corner doesn't do us much good in this business, even though it feels scary sometimes to ask for help. So.
And please fill out your surveys. I really do appreciate that. We as a company and so
Something funny about Hunter on the subject.
5-10 minutes. Fill out your surveys. Tell a friend. Thank you.
All right, thanks y'all.
Bye.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.